What you're saying is they've automated that part of it
Yeah,
so that we can just be our usual idiot selves and even more retarded, and it just does it for us.
yeah. And they took the fuck up tool out of our hands
Uh-huh.
and didn't give it back.
Huh.
And now it's just press a button and go. And then here we are.
I mean, that's how we used to sing it, like backstage when we were screwing around.
Yeah. Is this supposed to be muted? Is it muted over
I
there?
don't think so.
It's not muted on StreamYard.
No sound?
Yeah, no sound.
Yeah, well, tough. Tough beans.
That's wild. You hear it talking?
So you say that this thing automatically turned it on.
Wait a minute.
We got the voice, but the music was canceled out.
Oh,
The music is canceled out. Duh. Duh.
the guitar was just unamplified, guys.
This is the way they did it on the Ed Sullivan Show, all right? So get used to it.
Maybe it like do you have you know what? Actually, we can look at it here. It's probably the reduced mic background noise just like choked this tiny little sound.
Probably for good,
Yeah, well,
probably for the better anyway, because this thing
Steve
is
was
so out of
playing
tune.
some Kiss to honor the Space Ace, and it's just fine. that you
That's
didn't
right.
hear
If it
that.
was good enough for Ed Sullivan, it's good enough for you.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
So
Well,
I brought out my Univox Les Paul in not that Ace ever used a Univox Les Paul, but it is black
let's put a third pickup in there real quick.
and a smoke bomb,
Yeah,
smoke bomb trigger, and all that good stuff.
hell yeah.
And away you go.
Lou's saying our voices are clipping a little bit.
Well, tough.
Oh,
I mean, I
spicy
can.
Steve.
All right, I can make it unclip, and then it's going to be, how come you guys aren't as loud as your intro music? And so,
I just want to rock all night and party every day, Steve. Clipping or no
I
clipping?
don't really care if I rock or party right at the moment. I'm doing
I'm drinking water.
not for long.
Mm. Did Kiss ever use any Fryette gear?
No,
You know of?
no.
No.
No, it was way before our time.
Well, like even recently? Because I saw Kiss at the end of 23.
You saw him in 23?
I did.
There was a Kiss in 23?
Yeah, it was like just a few shows before the final show.
Oh,
At
God.
least until they tour again in a year or so. But yeah, it was at the Hollywood Bowl. It was awesome.
Oh, my
It was
God.
awesome.
There was a
Nobody's doing it like that anymore.
There was
It's
a-
over.
There was a Kiss tribute band in Germany that was playing at the Frankfurt Messe show about a decade ago that used our gear.
Oh,
That was as close as we got.
oh, cool.
Uh,
That's cool. Ace Frehley was my hero when I was 5 years old. I wanted to be Ace. I wish I had the pictures, but that's who I was for Halloween. I wanted to be Ace.
really?
Yeah,
You want to see something awesome?
of course. I always want to see something awesome.
No, not that.
Dr. Love. Right? Hell yeah.
Oh, where
Lou,
is
you're
it?
on it. That's my favorite Kiss song, actually.
Huh.
That song's nasty.
Oh, I have to go to his Facebook page.
What were you looking for?
Something that probably nobody's interested in, but let me just find it
You said it
anyway.
was cool.
It is cool.
CT, thank you for that. Maybe I should be Ace for Halloween this year.
There's
That's a fact.
a good friend of mine who's a producer engineer guy on the East Coast. He's in Maryland, named Mark Williams, and he used to work at Veneman's Music before it was the Guitar Center in Rockville, Maryland.
Okay.
And then after they became Guitar Center, he worked there for a while. So he was an early dealer of ours in the 90s, and we were buds and hung out a lot. And the other day he sent me this picture of him in 6th grade.
Oh, wow.
They're just lip syncing, but that was his first.
Yeah, that's how it was done then.
His first live outing in front of an audience was in the 6th grade school auditorium, lip syncing to Lightning. And
Really? You know what? Maybe if I obscure your face, it'll focus on that. Probably not. Peekaboo.
So yeah, dig that like 1980s high school drum kit with a 26-inch kick drum and a little
I like
dinky
the wood
snare.
paneling behind it.
Yeah,
that's
nice.
my favorite part.
That's a curtain. That's a curtain.
It's a curtain?
Yeah, curtain, wood, who cares?
I'm going to remember it as wood paneling because that's the way I want to remember it. Oh, man. Oh, yeah. Sketching the KISS logo. Yes. Yes. Oh, man.
Ace supposedly created the original KISS logo.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you think Paul or Gene would ever give him credit for that?
Absolutely not.
Yeah. The Van Halen logo taught you perspective. Cool. I remember that. I remember having, whatever notebook at school was just covered with band logos. You're always practicing them. Did you ever do that?
Yeah, I did that, and a friend of mine did that too. We had our peachy binders.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And I just made made it look like normal bands and stuff and normal names. But my buddy Steve, he had a dream band.
That was like his dream band?
Yeah.
In his head. It was all in his head.
Yeah. And he made pictures of them and all that, and they were called the Beasties.
Okay.
This was many decades before the Beastie Boys, but it was the Beasties, and their faces all looked like, Frankenstein and stuff. The bodies were normal. They were just like standing there playing normal guitars and drums and stuff, but their faces were like really scary.
I like that.
So he was very much ahead of his time.
Just addressing Nicholas. Yes, 100%. Because actually, I think you were born in the year that was like the peak KISS year. That was the year that I think they came out with the solo records, and they were just absolutely at their peak. So if you were just being born, you were going to miss the whole thing, because this is the shade portion of the evening.
Yeah.
Past, arguably, Dynasty, if you still like that, there was not a lot to be listening to in the 80s. But yeah, if you were a kid, like I was, like I said, Ace was my hero when I was 5. And that was like, I think I got into him in like 1980 or something like that.
Yeah,
the typical thing of like the next door neighbor friend's older brother.
Yeah.
Was like, hey kid, listen to this. And you're like, it's like rock and roll, but like comic book people. It's the greatest thing you'd ever seen.
Well, when I started playing guitar in clubs, the glam was really starting to happen. The original glam.
Oh yeah. So like T-Rex.
Yeah.
73.
Bowie.
Yeah.
And
the Sweet.
The Sweet, Slade.
Yeah.
And Gary Glitter.
After Van Halen, you listen to Kiss. Yeah, that'll do it to you.
Suzi Quatro.
Oh yeah.
I mean, there was some really bad there was some really good music and there was some really bad music, but it was all cool because it was glam.
Yeah.
And then this phenomena occurred, and this was in Seattle, where bands that couldn't get arrested otherwise started dressing up glam
And then
and
they're a
going
thing.
and playing terrible,
Yeah.
still being terrible bands,
Yeah.
but they were getting gigs now because they were not just doing the glam thing, but being really in your face about it.
Yeah.
And that's what was going on in Seattle when Kiss came out. And to me, they were just another one of those, okay. Yeah, it's one of those bands that if they didn't do that, they would be stillborn. And
Well, you know, it's a really interesting thing with Kiss. Like, there's definitely a disconnect just listening to their music and then the image.
well, I mean, when they started out, their first record was horrible, and their first, live shows, they were just panned right and left and blah blah blah, and they didn't really catch on until Kiss Alive.
Right.
And then all of a sudden they were like huge. They went from
and then Destroyer, and then
Yeah.
then the tunes are cool. I like Parasite is the only early song that I think is worth a shit.
uh-huh.
Those early things were really bad, but they found their way through. But still, like, their image, especially with Gene Simmons, it's almost more akin to like King Diamond or like super metal.
Yeah.
And then you listen to it, it's kind of like Rolling Stones with a little more game. Some of those early songs.
Sometime we got to get Nika-chan to do this, but she's got a Gene Simmons imitation face.
Oh, I love that.
I can't even do it. It's so comical and cute and stupid that,
That's a good thing.
and she won't do it on provocation. She'll do it like off the cuff.
You got to catch it when it comes out.
Yeah, if a Kiss song comes on the radio or something, she'll do this little cutesy, stupid little, just barely sticks with tongue. Does the head movement. And I'll catch it out of the corner of my eye, and I just lose it every time. And I go, I got to get that on film. She, no. She
Yeah.
will never allow that to happen in public. But oh God, it's great.
Yeah, well, I get, like, if I had been older when Kiss came out, I would have missed them too. Like, the whole thing was appealing to a 5-year-old.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
I mean, Ace is super cool. Some of those 75 through 78, some of those things are badass. Like Calling Dr. Love, that's an awesome song. And it's funky, man. Like, it was real musicians playing rock and roll, But
Probably Ace was likely hands down the coolest human being in the band. He was probably
without a doubt.
I mean,
Without a doubt.
the other two guys, I mean, Peter had his moment, and he could obviously write songs and all of that, but the other two guys were just so aggressively, business and grabbing, and all of that. And a friend of mine was a workout artist for Paul.
Oh, okay.
And he got in a car accident.
Gotta have those abs.
Yeah, he got in a car accident, so he couldn't make it to Paul's place for his appointment. So he calls Paul and says, I can't make it. I got a car accident. I don't have a way to get up there. And Paul's just like, what do you mean you got in a car accident? You don't have a car. Figure it out. Hung up the phone on him, just like no sympathy with him. Just like he was being a pansy for like not
for standing him up.
Yeah, for standing him up.
Thank you, Nico-chan.
Thank you.
Wow. All right.
We're gonna.
So this is to Ace.
To Ace.
Ace Frehley. Hell yeah. Cheers, everyone.
Too bad this doesn't have smoke bomb in it, but it's all right.
Still delicious.
Mm.
But to finish my point, if I was a musician who was could play, grown up, and Kiss comes out, I'm where you are. I'm not taking him seriously.
Well, I did see him. I did see him at the Long Beach. What was it? Long Beach Convention Center or something like that. The Long Beach, big Long Beach venue in the 80s. I did see them then. And
no makeup.
I think they were doing the. Maybe there was no makeup. Maybe that was the no makeup period. I think that's
What
the reason
year?
we went. We went to see somebody else, and it was opening for them, and we didn't really care about seeing Kiss, but that had to be around, God, it was before 80, 78 ish.
Oh, they had makeup then.
So when did they ditch the makeup?
83.
It could have been around that period.
Oh,
Could have been right around that period. I just remember Paul Stanley had this, his audience voice.
whoa! I can't even get that.
Yeah,
far.
it was so.
Rock and roll. Everything is like, whoa.
Yeah, it was
Like
almost
a game show host.
Yeah,
who's
exactly.
Hosting a rock show.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It was like Kirk Hammett's voice. It's the same kind of thing. Imagine Kirk Hammett trying to like get the audience to go, come on, everybody, you know. And so here's Paul Stanley trying to be a badass rock star, and he yells into the mic to, you know, all the beautiful girls in the audience. As long as I got a face, you got a place to sit. With that kind of a voice, and I was just like going, "Oh my god, oh my god!" That was like, you know, even the girls in the audience were looking at each other, going, "Ooh, creepy."
Oh, that's funny. Wow. Well, that was a decade later too. John, I was not at that game. I'm sitting on my couch, having a wonderful time. The last game that I went to was game 1 of the wild card series, and I was able to pick up pretty relatively well. They're about the same price of the tickets that I normally get. Now, I'm thinking of popping for World Series tickets. It's going to be insane, but I'm thinking about it.
Where even the
So I
crappy
didn't-
tickets are $85.
Oh no! Like multiply that by 10.
Really?
Oh yeah, and then more. Like I'll be pulling money out of savings if I do it. But how often do you go to? Well, all non-Dodger fans would go, "What do you mean? How often does your team go to the World Series? Every freaking year." Well, it won't last forever, and when it's gone, I'll be going, "Man, the
I
next
wish I'd have
time it-"
blah blah blah.
Oh, exactly. So
Yeah, I mean, if it's
You only live
really that
once.
important to you, you know, maybe you want to go and hawk.
I can sell a guitar.
Maybe.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna go. I mean, I go to Dodger Stadium about once a month during the regular season. Sometimes a little more. Like I'll go down to. I went down to Angel Stadium, doubled up in August, and saw the Dodgers play at Angel Stadium. Kind of following them around. So anyway, yeah, John, I wasn't there, but you know, we all saw the game and it was insane.
Would
Mark, we'll talk about that later.
Rush.
The Rush ticket pricing. I actually don't know how much the tickets are going for. Have you've seen all that?
I've seen it.
Getting
yeah.
and Alex
yeah,
are
yeah,
going
yeah,
out again.
Yeah.
I no hate whatsoever, but I'm not going to go to that show. Hero night. Neil is definitely a hero of mine, and I don't know. I just feel like I love Getty and Alex. I love Rush as much as anyone. I would just be really sad being at the show and having Neil not be there. He means so much to me. I don't. So that's for
I'm
somebody
kind
else
of
to
the
get to.
opposite of you. I think that they thought about it long and hard, and what would Neil say to them, right? What would he be saying to them?
Oh,
Don't stop on my account,
no, not at all.
punks. Don't be pussies. Get out there, and then finding this talented woman drummer who, and I've listened to a bunch of stuff that she's done, and she's good. So that to me is, I don't know, that was impressive to me that they took a move like that.
Yeah,
They took a step like that and decided,
totally.
you know what, if we're going to do this, we're going to break convention.
Yeah.
We're going to go out there and we're going to stick it in people's faces because that's what Neil would have wanted. And I can't think of a better way to do it than have people go, all right, I got to see this. I got to, I mean, and some people are going to be, I got to see if she can keep up. And I think that would be a stupid way to characterize it, because she's going to bring something different to the table, and I would be really interested to see what it is. I don't know if I'm enough of a Rush fan to go check it out, but I am interested to see.
Oh, I love Rush.
I'll see live videos. And
I
that'll
don't
be
know.
good
Maybe
enough
I'll
for
wind
me.
up going, because the thing is, like you said, they were such good friends, the three of them. And you could just imagine Neil going, "You are my friends. We have this catalog of music. You guys love playing so much. You should be out there playing the music and being happy, doing the thing that we did to build it."
That's what you do.
Yeah.
This is who we are.
And another thing to think about.
You don't stop being who we are just because.
Oh, man, that's an important thing. Having lost people in my life, there's a weird thing that happens when people in your life pass away. To most of us, maybe not all of us, but I was certainly guilty of it. You somehow start misremembering the person almost immediately, and you place them on this pedestal, and you forget what it was like to hang out in the room with them and just shoot the shit. And look, I wasn't fortunate enough to ever meet Neil, but can you imagine a human being going, "Yeah, I passed away, so don't ever play this music again. Do not do that.
Yeah,
if you want to honor my memory, don't have fun with this music ever again."
Yeah, right.
Who in the
and
hell
your
would do
career.
that?
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Right?
Who would? I understand that they would need some time to process that and figure out who they are and where they are, and come to this conclusion that we're not really different.
Yeah.
Our goals and feelings and wishes are probably even enhanced, but
John was saying too, they're bringing a keyboard player out too, so Geddy's not like glued behind the giant contraption. And
oh, well, that's cheating. That's cheating. See, now
I think
that's crossing the line, dude. No,
I think they always felt that way.
Yeah, maybe.
Like, look, we can use all the synths in the world if we can play them at the same time.
Yeah, there
Like,
was a little thing with those two guys that, one guy started playing synth and the other guy started playing guitar synth, and they were like, "Oh, what are you using the guitar synth for? Hey, you're using the bass synth."
Yeah, they both had the pedals on the
Yeah,
floor
yeah.
doing the,
Yeah, so that apparently that generated a little bit of a rivalry, but
Geddy's insane.
yeah, no, I think that's I think they should get out there and do that. I went to Italy. I went to Pompei, and I'd always wanted to go to Pompei. So we went to
Wait, we haven't been able to talk about this. You actually went to Pompei?
Yeah,
I can't wait to hear this.
and we no audio tour, no tour guide shit where you have to sit there and listen to somebody that you can't really hear because some jerk off in the crowd won't stop being the expert. Blah, 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 blah.
Got this guy singing Kiss.
Yeah. So we just decided we'll go absorb as much as we can and then do follow-up research afterwards to figure out what we saw. A few people said, "No, you're going to want to go with a guide. Otherwise, you're just looking at stuff. You're not going to really know what you're looking at." But I know that I'm going to be looking at stuff that I'm not going to be able to parse, and no tour guide is going to be really that helpful in that. I know how to do my own research. I know how to read into stuff. I've seen enough history. I've read enough history about it. It's been an interest of mine for long enough to know that I don't have to have it spoon-fed me in like these little bite-sized bits that aren't going to do me any good. So we didn't, and we went there.
You sound like a malcontent.
And we were wandering around, and we decided we're going to go this way. We figure out where north, south, east, and west was, and tried to sort of grok the map and all this. And then we found ourselves in the Colosseum area, and I went, God, another Coliseum. These people were building fools. They just built stuff and built stuff and built stuff. And it never even occurred to me the whole time that I'm looking at this and thinking about all the stuff that went on in this place since 1979 AD, right, or whatever it was. As we were leaving, there was this little hallway on the right, and we went there, and there's all these full-size pictures of the Pink Floyd
yeah.
performance there. And then I turned right around and I went, oh, this is that place.
Yeah.
It really kind of struck me, and I went,
Wow.
okay. That was like something I hadn't even thought about. I was just thinking about it in
Ancient times.
Historical perspective,
Yeah.
the ancient historical perspective. And then as soon as I saw that, I went back out and looked around and go, it's a lot with that perspective, the place seemed a lot smaller
Oh, interesting.
than it looks like with the stage all set up and all of that. And didn't the Beastie Boys play there, do the same?
Actually, I don't know about that.
I think the
I
Beastie
should know
Boys
about that.
bought a bunch of the same gear that Floyd used,
Oh,
or
my
maybe even some of their
God,
original
that's
gear,
insane.
and went there and played a show using Floyd's gear.
No, they bought everything,
They bought everything.
but that they shoot it. They wanted to recreate the Pompei feeling, but that they went to actually they couldn't do it in Pompei. They did it in New Zealand, I think.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
So they went
okay.
to New Zealand and recreated the event with using Pink Floyd's
Australia, New Zealand. I forgot.
some of their original Pink
One
Floyd
of the
gear.
greatest shots of all time, film shots of all time, was during Echoes. That long pan behind the band, and it's all the gear.
Yeah.
It's all the high watt stuff, and you see the amp stenciled Pink Floyd,
Yeah.
London, and it's just
Yeah.
larger than life,
Yeah.
and the band's just smoking
Uh-huh.
like funky in
Yeah.
the way that Pink Floyd could be at that time. Like it's the groove they were cutting is nasty. It's just the coolest looking thing in the world, man. I love that. Somebody asked me a question. Oh, Mark was asking about kind of what we feel about Rush doing new music without Neil. I think Ged and Alex should make new music. I don't know if you'd call it Rush. That'd be weird. I mean, Neil wrote 98% of the lyrics. That would be odd. What do you think? What do you think, Mark? What do you think, guys?
Well,
I'm not excited to hear that be called Rush, but it's up to them.
Neil really wrote most of the lyrics.
Yeah.
I'm sure the band as a whole, and probably Geddy drove a lot of the musical structure, the creation of the musical structure. And yeah, I was just, me being me, I'm just thinking, I wonder if the new girl drummer can make those kinds of drawings that Neil made that go along with the songs. All those
Yeah.
weird guys. That's just a stupid
Or
comment.
maybe
Don't pay
Annika
attention to me.
can write some great lyrics. Otherwise, it's going to be like, here's our new song, and it'll be like working man kind of lyrics, like the early Rush before Neil joined.
Yeah.
Oh, rock and roll, in the mood. The first Rush album before the elevated lyric.
Yeah,
Like,
well, I
this is
lived in
standard.
I lived in Canada when they first came out, and before they really came on the scene, they were basically just a bad Led Zeppelin, clone.
Yeah, they hadn't found their thing.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. I mean, they were cool, but it was clear.
yeah. They turned into something that they probably never even imagined that they would turn into.
Right. Neil was the catalyst.
Yeah, he drove a lot
Like
of that.
unlocked everybody in there.
Ah.
Um,
So there's been just tons and tons of stuff going on, and
Did you see Mark licensed new lyrics? Blah blah blah. Do you know this thing? Did you ever see when Rush got inducted into the Rock Hall of Fame
no,
and Alex gets up to do his speech?
yeah,
It's one of the greatest things ever done. I don't want to explain it. You have to see it. I'll show it to you after the show. It's one of the greatest things ever. Oh no, John. Yeah, you're right. Oh, we have a light that's taking a dump.
Yeah,
It's just a bad socket.
Oh, that would be the worst. Hey, Chatty, write me some Neil Peart lyrics.
Got a funky switch.
Blah 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 blah.
Oh, I think I remember that.
It would be the worst. Does it look stupid? Erica's laughing.
The license speech.
What?
The license speech.
Yeah.
Oh.
I mean, I saw
I think I did see that.
something going on today. It's like it's so mellow today. What's going on? It wasn't just a mellow token. It was everything was so dark.
Like the show is mellow?
Yeah, that's what I felt. Like
Interesting.
there's no energy coming out of you guys.
Really?
I don't feel any different.
I don't feel any different.
Now I realize
What?
light wasn't on.
Oh no, it was on the whole time. It just started acting up a little bit.
Oh,
Lou, I actually think I just saw recently that Neil actually did write those lyrics, and it was busting on Kiss actually, because they were touring together at the time. And what was the song that they're making fun of with it? Anyway, yeah, you can Google that, and it'll be more accurate than what I'm falsely remembering. But anyway, you were in Pompei
Yeah, well, I mean, I went to Germany to
for the
Mannheim
Guitar Summit.
for the Guitar Summit, and I thought I was just going to go to check it out. And we have a distributor there who's a personal friend of mine. We've been good friends for 30 years, easy. And he didn't start doing our actual distribution until about 20 years ago, probably, roughly. And and I've been there a number of times. I've been to Germany a number of times, and we've hung out together and done shows. We've done the Music Messa and all of this, but I'd never done the Guitar Summit. So when the Messa died out, the whole music show scene fractured and disseminated around. It turned into these little regional shows,
Okay.
like one in Italy and one in Germany and one in the UK, and it just fragmented. And somehow the German one has been gathering momentum, and it's probably because it's a cool venue. It's not too big. It isn't plagued with all the crap that you have to deal with to do the NAMM show. The logistics, the rules, the regulations, all the the money that you have to spend, and all the scheduling, and just that the crew that runs the show, the actual management of the venue itself, when the companies are moving in and out, it's never any good. It's always a waste of time.
Yeah.
It's all getting in and out would be just like you go there, unload your stuff, take it to your booth, set it up. At the end of the show, you tear it down, you put it in your truck, and you leave. No, not at NAMM. At NAMM, you rent a truck. You have to be there at a certain time window. It has to be this time window. You have to be there by that time window, 8. And your time window is going to be Tuesday from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m.
And you don't bring your stuff in, right? You have to wait for the union hands to do it.
That's the thing. First of all, you got to be there in the time window.
And you're like, I'm running a business, man.
Right.
Like-
So, okay, we'll be there within the time window, 8 to 10 a.m.
Okay.
We get there at 8 to 10 a.m. And when do they finally start moving our stuff out? About 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Oh,
So
dude.
the truck and the entire crew and myself are hanging out in the back loading area of the NAMM show for the entire day, waiting for our truck to get unloaded. And they don't treat it like unloading the truck. They treat it like you're shipping your gear from the loading dock to your booth. They literally charge you a shipping charge based on the weight. the dimensional weight of all the stuff
Did you know
you're
that the
bringing
first time
in.
you did NAMM, or was that
Yeah,
a
yeah,
pleasant
yeah.
surprise?
But it just
Okay.
got, the management of it just got worse and worse and worse, to the point where there's all these surcharges, and they're just basically nickeling and diming you to death until by the end of the show. I mean, we're spending between $30,000 and $50,000 to do an AM show,
Oh,
right? As opposed to just like being able to go in and set up. You can't set it up yourself. You have to use the union people at $100 an hour, and none of those guys know how to do anything. So they have to do all the stuff that they don't know how to do. You have to tell them how to set things up, where to put the screws and nuts, where the carpet's supposed to go. Don't cut the carpet. Oh, well, there's an AC outlet underneath the carpet, so we have to cut the carpet. No, you don't. You just run the cable underneath the carpet. Oh, okay. And then you turn around and the guy takes out a knife and he cuts the carpet in half because he doesn't want to run the cable underneath, right? So they destroy the carpet. There's just all kinds of things that just make getting in and out of NAMM a miserable, aggravating, hateful experience that after you've done it 20 or 30 times, you just like emotionally can't take it anymore. Contrast, going to Germany, we spent less money flying to
on it,
Germany,
yeah.
helping set up the booth by the German distributor and tearing it down and getting out there and buying dinner every night for the entire crew, and then going to the bar, paying for the hotel rooms, and the hotel room that was just connected to the venue had this nice bar and restaurant that was open till 3 o'clock in the morning. So everybody after the show went to the bar at the hotel and hung out until they closed it, which was 3 a.m., where you got to meet the people that you didn't meet during the day and eat and drink and stuff, and did all of that, and went to Italy, went to Turin, Milan, Rome, and Pompei and back for 1/4 of what it cost to do NAMM. All right? That was the difference in that experience. And so I felt like we really got our money's worth on that trip and accomplished something, and it just solidified my whole attitude that the same thing that happened to Music Messa and these other shows that splintered off into regional, the same thing should happen here, because it's not fun. The only fun part of NAMM anymore is meeting the people that you
Sure.
deal with
Right.
year in and year out.
Because a hang's a hang.
A hang is a
fun,
hang,
and it's
yeah.
a forced hang.
Yeah,
And everybody's like, we have to be here to do this thing. And that's what
right.
it always was.
And
And
if
that's fine.
if all you do for the first, in order to get there and then get back out, is just have dump truck loads of misery piled up on you, then when you finally do get to the point where, hey, Jurgen, it's great to see you. You're already just burned out, emotionally just carved out. So I had the best time. Not only did I have a great, great time at the Guitar Summit, but it was vibrant. It was alive. There was no noise because they had a noise restriction. You couldn't make any noise, not an artificial number that everybody violated, but zero noise. So a lot of people are using power loads because if they want to play amps and stuff,
Yeah.
they have to do it
Yeah.
silently through headphones. And so we had power loads in a bunch of different booths there, and people were using them, and people are standing at the booth playing guitar and listening and trying stuff, and they're having a great time. And I really got to hang out and talk to people and meet people. And one of the best things about it was all these people that I had met before that I hadn't seen for years because I hadn't been to Germany in quite a while. It was just like old home week. And I met some homies that I didn't even know were homies. I mean, I had people come out to me going, "Oh, dude, you're here? Oh, man," I'm signing autographs. People are going, "Oh, man, you'd inspired me to start my own company. It's like I'm doing this," and they're doing interesting things. And it just one thing after another. I met all of the guys that are doing, all the influencer guys that do reviews in Europe. I just ran into all these guys at the bar upstairs and the bar at the hotel. People would just like see me and they would come up and go, "Oh, man, you're here? I get to meet you in the flesh." And I'm like, what the hell is going on? It was an entirely different reality than what I'm normally used to. So if you get a chance next year to go to see, if you want to see where a music community come together and hang out and it really be about music and gear and what is going on and the reality of what's going on, not what just gets marketed to you and you think is what's going on, like, you know, the relative importance of modelers versus real amps, what's out there in the marketplace and why it's out there. It's just an entirely different and more informed and informative experience and loads and loads of fun. There was a good Indian restaurant across the street. And then there was another place not too far away that was advertised as a Japanese restaurant, but it was actually more like a P.F. Chang's kind of thing, only with good food. And so it was bigger than a typical Japanese. Japanese restaurants tend to be small and compact and little places because that's the way things are in Japan.
Sure.
Chinese restaurants tend to be big and opulent and overdone because that's the way they do things in China. And so these big buildings with, dragons and lion statues everywhere.
It's almost like the Baroque period.
Yeah, so this was kind of a weird mashup of Chinese decor with Japanese food, only with side dishes and things that you would expect to see in a P.F. Chang's, only just much better, not the corporate vibe. So that was awesome. I was at the Indian restaurant and I struck up a conversation with the owner of the restaurant, who's this woman who was really cool, and she was really game for stuff. And she asked me what I wanted to drink, and I said, I'll have a gimlet. And she goes, a what? A gimlet. Oh, what's a gimlet? And I said, well, do you have limes? And she says, oh yeah, we have limes. I said, okay. You have gin? And she goes, yeah, what kind of gin? And I said, well, what do you have? You must have Bombay, right? She goes, of course we have Bombay. Do you have, I named off a couple of other gins and she gave me the 5-yard stare, but they sure had Bombay, right?
Sure.
Of course. So I said, okay, Bombay will fine. And she says, so what do you do? And I said, do you want me to just show you? And she goes, yeah. So she hauls me over behind the bar and I showed her how to make a gimlet.
Oh, cool.
And she's like, okay, this is going on the menu from now
That's
on.
fun.
So that was a
That's
blast.
fun.
People are looking at me like, you're hanging around with the owner of the restaurant and you're teaching them how to make a drink that they're going to put on the menu. And I'm like,
That's fun.
I didn't plan it that way. It just worked out that way.
Yeah.
You just get up and you just like talk to anybody, don't you? And I go, yeah, pretty much.
Oh, I do.
Yeah. And being there put me in that mood because everybody wanted to talk about gear and their passion for it and the things that they believed about tube amps and why they're passionate about it. And you think I talk a lot here? Oh boy.
You do talk a lot.
I totally blew my voice out
By the way,
at that place.
any questions that go in the chat, we'll answer them later on. I just want to let you know we're not ignoring them. We see everything and we'll get to the questions. I do want to ask you, I think we know the answer because you're kind of talking about it. Mark, thank you for the update on the ALCS. Very much appreciated. Frost Crown was asking, do you still feel like NAMM is worth it or if it's relevant anymore in the age of social media? Brian hasn't done a NAMM in several years.
We haven't, it's been probably 17 or 18 since we've done a NAMM. We didn't go last year. I would go with one or two of my team and we would get a hotel room and we would go make appointments with people at the restaurant or at a lunch place or at somebody's booth, but we didn't have a display.
Let them incur the costs and you'll just go.
Or we'd go out outside to the food truck area, and have some fish tacos and yak, and the weather's usually nice. And so since it was really about just getting together and chatting anyway, these days you don't really write orders at NAMM like we used to. You used to go spend X number of dollars and do 4 times the amount that you spent doing the show. You would get that in booked orders and then leave the show and go
Yeah.
build those orders.
Right.
The booking orders part is gone. So it's just all outlay, it's all expense. And basically, you're paying this exorbitant amount of money to hang out with your friends. So we made the decision a few years ago that, hey, we'll go to Germany, we'll go to the UK, we'll fly around to dealers around the US, and we can do all of that and pay all the expenses and still come away for a fraction of the cost of doing the NAMM. And it's much more effective because you get to hang out with the people in their turf, without all the.
Well, also a thing that I saw happen to you every year was you'd be humming along as a company, and the NAMM preparing for it would just derail everything.
Just a big roadblock to the amount of money that we spent on that show would pay for 2 years product development, not to mention the time,
The time to design the booth and what are we going to do and how are we going to do it?
and then go there and then come back
yeah,
and then
hurry
decompress.
up and have something to display there that normally we wouldn't have ready on time. Like, I just saw you. It just seemed like a really inefficient way to spend, 3 or 4 months leading up to the damn
It
show.
just became progressively more and more counterproductive to the point where last year we didn't even do the hotel rooms. Last year we just invited people to come out to the factory, assuming that nobody would want to do that because they're booked all up, and their logistics are difficult and blah, blah, blah. But surprisingly, we had 3 or 4 guests every day of the show. And so it was great. We did interviews there. We met people there. They came to the factory for the first time, saw the way our operation worked. And an interesting thing happened at the Guitar Summit, which was I was showing some of our various dealers some of the projects that we have in development and stuff, and I never once got asked, when is this going to be available and how much is it going to cost? Those 2 questions never came up. The comment was, cool, just let me know when I can place an order for 5 or 10 of those. And that was the end of the conversation. The rest of it is about, so what did you see that was cool, that was interesting, that you liked? Did you talk to anybody? Have you seen anything? So that took all the onus off of sort of like being in show mode.
Yeah.
And then on Sunday, we went, instead of going to the show for the first thing Sunday, since it's mostly going to be consumer people walking around, and I've already met most of the people in the previous couple of days that I needed to meet or that I wanted to hang out with. We went to the Mannheim Technical Museum, which, what a mind blower. The whole 6 floors of this massive museum devoted to the start and progression of the industrial age, from the Gutenberg press forward to the present day.
Mm-hmm.
The most dense, intense museum experience I had ever encountered. Seattle used to have this, I don't know if they still do. They had a museum of history and industry that I always thought was great when I was a kid. And this was like that times 100. And, everything in Europe with regard to historical stuff and these big museums is like that. They're just monstrous.
Have you been to the Museum of Jurassic Technology here in town?
No, but at the Technical Museum in Mannheim, they did in fact have a steamroller. I think I even got a picture of it. It was like a steamroller from the 1800s or something. I mean, it was crazy. They had a Gutenberg press in there. They had a working 19th century offset printing press that you could set it up and ink the pad and make your own, print your own page with this
Wow.
big machine. You pull this lever and this paper feeder and this big thing that if you stuck your hand in there, you'd lose it.
You wouldn't have one anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the people that worked there at the exhibits, they just looked like they loved being there and loved interacting with people. And hey, you want to see something really cool? They just
love that.
steam
Yeah.
comes out and these wheels start grinding to life, and it's just like, oh my, the floor is shaking. We were going to go there for like 2 hours, and we ended up staying there about 5.
Oh,
I think that
man.
whole trip we probably walked. That's the beautiful thing about Europe. You can walk and take trains everywhere, so it's like getting around is not difficult. And if you get a hotel, it's sort of centrally located, you can see, at least 5 to 10 landmark sites within walking distance of your hotel. So I think
Oh, yeah.
we probably altogether walked about 100 miles. And I'm sure of it.
Oh,
I did.
oh, yeah.
We didn't, and we ate lighter because the restaurants serve smaller portions, which
Yeah.
is great. They don't feed you all this junk that you can't possibly eat
Well,
in
also,
one
did
sitting.
you notice this? Like, I was in Paris last month, and we were talking about the makeup of your meals are a lot of the same ingredients, but it seems like they're all sort of, it's not the processed variety. So it feels like it's a different almost strain
It's more rootsy.
way.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not everything out of a box.
Like like a couple of places we went in Italy, they served a salad.
Uh-huh.
There's no dressing on the salad. There's a couple of varieties of lettuce, some sliced lox, and chopped grapefruit, and
Oh, cool.
and thin sliced onions, and that was salad. And then they brought you a bottle of vinegar and a bottle of olive oil and some salt and pepper, and you could just do that to taste. But they served it without any dressing.
Yeah.
Can you imagine like being in Italy and having a waiter come in? Do you want Italian or French dressing? I mean, it's just the whole thing. Here, it's just like that's just normal. There, the whole idea of having the waiter ask you what kind of dressing you want is absolutely ludicrous. You get up in the morning, you have a latte or a cappuccino, blah, blah, blah. And in the afternoon, you stop someplace and you have an espresso, a little tiny espresso. Just basically a sip, bang, zoom, and you're on your way. And so we didn't eat a ton. We ate because it was time to eat. You stopped, had a lunch, stopped, had a dinner. There were small portions. They were manageable. It was really tasty. It was like you said, it wasn't like this overblown thing. They didn't give you 4 times more than you needed to try to justify the fact that
Yes.
you're getting
I'm always
raped
talking
and
about
pillared
that. Yeah.
by paying for it and all that. And as a result, I didn't really lose any weight doing all that walking and exercise. I replaced dormant muscles with actual muscle tissue. So I didn't lose weight. I thought I would lose a bunch of weight, but I didn't lose weight. I turned fat into muscle. And by the time we got back, I felt, God, my body just like feels much more toned than it has in a long time. And we did walk.
You've been jumping off the top turnbuckle this past week. I saw
Oh
you.
man, it was just fantastic, and I can hardly wait to do it again.
Wait, why are we talking about Wagner? What did I miss? So there's 2 portions to your trip. The second portion was the Italian vacation.
Right,
The first portion was the Guitar Summit.
right.
You were saying, and actually someone sort of asked about this, talking about the reality of what's happening versus the marketing sort of thing,
Right. Mm-hmm.
and asked you to elaborate on that. What did you feel was going on in Mannheim that is maybe different than what you would get at the NAMM show in Anaheim. Anaheim.
Um, just the organic nature of the perception of what you're doing, why you're there. People that are exhibiting because this is a thing that I came up with. This is an idea that I had that I've developed and turned into something. And you saw a lot of little enterprising individuals doing interesting little things. It wasn't like
just entirely profit motive. Here's what.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's so stratified at NAMM. There's all the big companies that have the 8,000 square foot booths, right? That are all lights and artists and
So
staff.
coming through, and you're gonna get an autograph for the next half.
Yeah,
hour.
or
stand in line.
or the presentation staffed by a bunch of people that don't know any more about the product than
You're
barely
talking
have,
about the Schechter girls in the chat a little while ago.
yeah, well,
Why don't you have Fryette girls?
I mean, if you go to NAMM now and you go to the bar, you see what used to be the Schechter girls, and now they're like, "Oh, why are you still dressing like that? Just stop it! Just stop it!" I didn't.
Mom?
Yeah, exactly. It's creepy. I don't know. There's no vibe when you go to NAMM. If you go to the Hilton bar, nobody goes there. Nobody wants to drink.
It's over?
It's been over for a long time. Nobody goes there and hangs out. There's,
Oh, man,
there's
it's
no
always
hang.
packed.
There's no sense of community at the NAMM show. It's all biz. And it's all because it's so expensive. Everybody's just trying to maximize their investment. The Guitar Summit is aptly titled. It's people getting together and it's not, it didn't feel competitive. When I went to, I'd be walking down the hallway someplace. Thomas Blue comes up to me, gives me a big hug. You got to come over to my booth. I got a microphone and set up and a camera, and we got to have a little quick interview together. Man, we got a lot to talk about. And I went, yeah, we got to do that. So I go up to his booth. He's not there. And then he comes down a couple of hours later. He goes, oh, man, I missed you. And blah, blah, blah. Let's try it again. I'm doing this. And logistically, everybody was busy. And so I did connect with some people and I didn't connect with other people. I connected with, you got this video, this little short video thing. I connected with Ignacio Vagnone from Jensen, who is a great guy. A great human being, number one, a guy with ears, number two, a guy who's like passionate about speaker design and development, number three, knows amplifiers in and out, good friends with everybody. So he took us around, showed us some sites in Milan, and took us to a couple of dealers. He doesn't work for our company. He's not a rep, but he took us around to a couple of our dealers and hung out while we had conversations about, what kind of products that they would like to see from us and so on and so forth. And then he took us to see some pretty phenomenal, sites like the Duomo, which is the huge cathedral in Milan, the biggest and most famous one that took 600 years to build. And it was so amazing because we took the train to get there. And so we're underground. We get off the train at the platform and walk up the stairs. And when we get to the top of the stairs and walk out of the exit, there's this massive cathedral. It's like if you walked up to it from a distance, you would have one impression because you would see it from far away. And so you wouldn't have the impact. But coming out of the ground and then looking around and then seeing this thing, like it hit like a ton of bricks.
It's not playing.
So
Let me convert it here.
So we spent several hours inside and outside and all around that place and the square that's around it that was just such an amazing experience. And so we were having a conversation about it, talking about, he was sort of giving us some historical background, and we were looking at the structure, and he says, we were noticing the ceiling treatment. The main central aisle down the center of the cathedral had this arch ceiling that looked pretty heavily reinforced. And then there was an
flying buttresses.
There was an aisle to the right and the left of this main center aisle that were narrower. And so the supports weren't as heavy duty, but they were more intricate and more decorative. And Ignazio's going, I've always wondered why that center aisle is so rigid looking, but the outer aisles look more intricate and less involved. And I said, because the aisles are narrower, and those parts of the roof have less mass sitting on top of the columns, so that there's less energy that has to transfer down through the columns to the ground, so they can afford to make that structure more delicate and more artistic. Whereas the main part of the cathedral is, you can see that it comes to a steeper angle, the more classic Gothic angle, because it has more physical mass sitting on top of it that needs to be transferred down a higher number of columns. And he looked at me and he goes, I never knew that about this place before. How did you know all that stuff? And I said, well, I didn't really know that. It just makes logical sense. He goes, you're some kind of an engineering genius. I said, no, I've watched a couple of documentaries about medieval structures and you know how the flying buttresses work and all that. So you asked me the question, and I just told you what I remember from when I had that question. He was just like, that's so fascinating. He said, you're not like a regular tourist. You're like interested in this stuff, really. And I didn't even think about that. I went, that's really remarkable. I mean, how could you not? I spent so much time looking at all this stuff going, where do they get all the stones for all of this construction?
Yeah, it's bananas.
I mean, dragging all these massive blocks of granite from all over the country to this spot to make this phenomenal thing. And
have you ever seen?
I just kept seeing that over and over again in every city. I saw it in Germany. I saw it in Italy. I just saw it everywhere.
That's the clip that you sent, right?
Yeah.
Here, let's put that up.
So this is Ignazio from Jensen, who will poke up. So this is the center aisle of this magnificent cathedral in Milan. That when you go to Italy, you go there and you go see this thing, and just have.
Hey.
And there's Ignazio on the right, and.
Yeah, check that out.
Yeah. I got a crook in my neck because I was just standing around there looking straight up for hours going. And what's interesting, if you look at that really closely, you see these horizontal lines across from the left to the right, these little black lines going across. Those are actually added later. Those are anchors to help support the structure and kind of earthquake proof it from potential collapse because it's so old. So those are kind of reinforcements that all the cathedrals around the various cities in Italy have, those kinds of reinforcements. So they're kind of earthquake proofing these buildings. So that country spends, God, a shitload of money restoring and
they got all
repairing,
they got all the spots,
all this stuff. So yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna ramble on and on about it for the rest of the show. It's probably going to take me a good solid year to just process all of that. And I was telling Ignazio about it, and he goes, yeah, I totally understand the feeling. When we went to Japan, it took us a long time to process the culture shock of going to Japan after being you know, living in Italy my whole life and then going to Japan. He says it's quite a shock. Damn that light. So, of course, we can't have a show without something conking out. And,
The low energy again.
yeah, I've been nursing this lamp along for quite some time because I just couldn't bring myself to fix it since I was able to get it to work without having to fix it. But it's on its last leg now, and obviously it's going to make me pay. But what you got to know is, you know what, we're just going to have to do without it.
Whoa, we have no energy.
We got
We're
plenty.
lower energy.
We got plenty of energy.
Erico says we have no energy because
Yeah, I got
the
energy.
light is bad.
I'm just trying not to
Erico's gonna mess
yeah.
with it now.
I'm trying not to just go overboard with all of the stuff that we've experienced.
Well, I mean it's
Actually, Erico, you know what? It isn't even really that critical to have it.
Scary.
Yeah, you're just making it look like a science fiction movie now.
I like that. It's kind of cool. Kind of little Halloween riff.
Well, I mean, if you must know, the studio currently does not have a roof on it because the whole building is getting a new roof.
Facts. It's very true. Yeah.
Thank you. We don't have a roof or heating or air conditioning in here because that's all getting redone. But we got a floor and chairs and walls and light, and
So did you?
that's all we need.
You were in Rome.
We went from Mannheim to Turin,
Mm-hmm.
and we went to the church where they have the shroud.
Mm-hmm.
They don't show the shroud except one time a year, and we weren't there at the right time of year for that. But we went to the church and it was closed, and we knew that it was closed, but we went to look at it from the outside anyway. And when we get there, we're standing around looking at it. Oh, what a magnificent structure, you know. And people are starting to congregate around the front door. And wow, I mean, don't all these people know that this place is closed? But they're starting to get more and more people congregating around the door. And they're probably just taking pictures. And all of a sudden, all the doors opened up. And Nika-chan just lost it. She goes, I was already resigned to the fact that they weren't going to open the doors, that it wasn't going to be open. I wasn't going to be able to see it. So when the doors opened, she just started doing this and ran in, and we spent a couple hours in there.
Wow.
And that was kind of interesting. That was very interesting. What's interesting about it is the whole experience with the sightseeing thing is how you approach it. Because if you're just a tourist, you're doing the same touristy thing. You go look at everything, and then you go through the store, and you get a Shroud postcard and a Shroud t-shirt and a Shroud keychain and Shroud underwear and a Shroud sunglasses, and oh my God, is it annoying.
Yeah.
And you can get a Shroud with your name on it. I mean, it's just like but
Did you
there's this commercialized aspect to it that just makes you nauseated. But
every monument has that,
yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah.
But you have to think about it this way. All of that stuff is supposedly going towards the upkeep of these monuments. So that's how I kind of square it.
Yeah, I mean, you have to do that, sure.
So did you get to Vatican City?
Went to Vatican City.
Did you see?
We weren't able to get inside. It was too busy.
Oh, because that building, when we're talking about architectural marvels, that whole dome, Bernini, that's his name. He was a sculptor, but also an architect. He's the one who designed that whole dome. And if I remember right, I think the Medici were in charge at the time, and they put out this thing like anyone who can present Like we have this dome that needs built. Nobody can figure out how to build it. If you can figure out how to build it and you can convince us, you get the job.
Right.
And he got the job, and the way it's done is it's called the pesce. I think that's how you say fish. I'm not saying it with the proper accent, but the fish pattern, how they stacked the bricks, is what enabled it to be supported into this dome. It's insane. So I didn't know, we're talking about architectural marvels, but you weren't able to get into St. Peter's?
Yeah, well, I mean, we saw a lot of it. And again, by the time we saw that, we had been to the Colosseum in Rome.
You get monument overload. You really do. You really do. I know when I've been doing that.
We went to catacombs. We went to this underground crypt where all these priests of this particular sect were, their bones were all stacked up.
Yeah.
Oh my God. It was a goth girl's dream in there.
Bones.
So yeah, we did a lot of stuff knowing that, okay, we're going to just, now we got our bearings. Now we know how to get around, get in and out, manage the trains, manage the airports, deal with cab drivers. Though we had this great cab driver in Naples that was in this little broken down thing, like kind of like a Fiat 500. It wasn't a Fiat 500. It was some other little rust bucket that everything in it was shaking loose. And
Oh wow.
and the guy was an older gentleman, but he was really sprite, and anxious to show us his driving skill.
Ooh.
And it was during busy traffic, so he was going to take us to our hotel, but he couldn't go the normal way because it was all booked up with traffic.
Yeah.
So he took us on this Mr. Toad's wild ride of all the back streets in Naples. And oh my God, we were just like literally hanging on like this. And everything in the car was shaking, like bits and pieces were falling off.
Do you have an oh shit handle?
We had an all shit handle, and I got a little bit of video of it, but we were just cracking up. And, he's like heading straight towards a minibus, a motorcycle, and pedestrians, and it was all,
That'll be the day.
it was, they were all vying for the same space on this little piece of pavement, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so somebody cuts him off. He slams on the brakes to stop. When he stops, two guys on motorcycles go around us and just like have about this much space to get through down the hill, and then the minivan coming up the hill on this hairpin turn has to turn 3 or 4 times before he can actually make it around the turn, and then it's cleared up for us, and then he just dive bombs down this cobblestone road, and we're like boom, 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 boom. It was the most intense, satisfying 10-minute cab ride of my entire life. We were just, I'm like, dude, you are amazing. And he turned around and looked at me. He goes, yeah. He was out to conquer. He was out to show us his death-defying skills behind the wheel. Oh man, was it a riot? That was great.
Oh,
You just
nice.
you don't see that kind of stuff here.
So where did you stay the day? Like, did you go from Rome out to Pompeii same day?
We went to Naples,
Okay.
which is closer to Pompeii. And we went there, and then we took the train to Pompeii
Okay.
and spent the day, and then the train
And I
back.
forget what it's called, but did you go out to the coast where they have that little village that's like all on the cliffs? Like you can get out there from Pompeii. I forget what it's
The
called.
Amalfi
You know what I'm
Coast.
talking. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
on that coast. But
Yeah,
I
no, we
forget
didn't. We didn't go out
Oh,
there.
okay.
I mean, we didn't go to Florence either. We were gonna go to Florence, but it was just like our dance ticket
Then you
was
got to
totally
go up.
booked.
Yeah.
So
And plus, you're already exhausted with all the amazing stuff you've seen.
Oh.
Like just go back.
yeah,
when you
yeah. So
got
we went to Naples. We went down to Pompeii. It was really funny because the day that we were supposed to go to Pompeii, it turns out that
Volcano erupted.
yeah, seriously. No, it was like we realized that we hadn't locked in the tickets. So when we go to lock in the tickets, that day was booked and we couldn't go. And we were like, oh, this is going to really screw up our travel plans because this is like our last day. And so that morning when we woke up at the hotel, we're right on the coast of Naples, right over this, our hotel's overlooking this marina.
Oh,
I go look at the window, it's pouring down rain, it's thunder, there's a windstorm, there's white caps on the ocean.
Like Pink Floyd's not going to play today.
Oh yeah. It was like, we're like, I am so glad that we didn't get to go to Pompei that day. We booked it for the next day. The next day, beautiful, warm, blue skies, sun, a nice breeze blowing through. It was perfect. So it turned out really great that we weren't able to do Pompei that day. So after Pompei, we went back to Naples and then got on a train from Naples to Rome. And then we spent our last day in Rome, 2 days in Rome. God. And then Rome, back to Germany, Frankfurt, and then back to LA. So by the time we got on the plane, we had exhausted every single cell in our bodies. So now we know what we want to do next time. But it's going to be a while because, I mean, can't do, just that's a lot of traveling to do. Even there's other stuff to do, other things, other challenges we have to meet and other things we have to get done.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of work ahead of us, but boy, was that a great opportunity to blow off steam and look at things and do things that weren't about when are we going to get the chassis? Where are the tubes going to come from? Blah, 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 blah,
Right.
blah. Who's part of their task did not get finished in time, and the programming, blah 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 blah, and all the stuff that we are consumed with daily with regard to production and development and shipping and receiving and dealers and all of that kind of stuff. It just was great to stop thinking about that for a sustained 6 or 7 days.
Yeah.
Just like, wow.
Yeah.
There's other things to concentrate on.
Yeah.
But still, going back to the Guitar Summit. So I ran into I can't even think of everybody's name. The reviewer influencer guys that I talked to. I spent a serious amount of time talking to the guy that actually builds the high watts that Hiwatt sells as the flagship high watts, the DR103 and the DR504, and then 1 or 2 other models. The guy that builds those for high watt in England. And then we had a long conversation about which is the preferred topology
iteration of,
and
yeah.
and he said that he had watched our video that we did,
Really?
and he goes I watched your video with great interest, and you really did pick the right one. That's the one that is your favorite, is the one that's my favorite too. I was so happy to see that. And so we had a lot to discuss about what that is and why that is. And he's younger and newer at it. So he was just like, anything else you can tell me about it? I would love to know more. So we talked for quite a while at the bar over several beers.
Hey, that's a good time.
And that
What were
was
you drinking
fun.
over there?
Oh, beer? Germany? You drink beer.
Well, yeah, but what beer?
Oh, whatever, in Germany,
Just whatever one up in front of you. you're drinking, you
every
weren't paying
town
attention.
in Germany has its its brand, its local brand, right?
Yeah.
So you just get a Pilsner. Yeah, you don't even ask for a brand in Germany when you go to Germany to drink beer. You don't ask for a brand. What do you want? Do you want a Weizen or a Pils? Pils. I always go for the Pilsner. Somebody else it's the Weizen, the wheat beer. And so yeah. Most
Well-
people in Germany, when they go up to the bar, what are you gonna have? A beer. Okay. And if you don't say Weizen, it just assumes that you're going to have the Pilsner, the standard beer, and they just pour it. And they pour it properly. It has to have the 2 inches of foam on the top, and it has to have the right amount of creaminess. And if it isn't perfect, you get to say, you didn't do this right. They'll take it back and dump it out and do it again to get the foam just right.
Yeah.
They're very serious about that. So yeah, drank beer in Germany, drank wine in Italy, and
What was the best meal you had?
best meal. There was two. One was in Turin, this little street cafe where they had this salad with the baby octopus that was just to die for. It was just perfectly prepared. And then there was this funky little restaurant that the head chef was this 28-year-old woman who was fantastic, and she had some really interesting ideas. And that was just down the street from our hotel in this little side street, a little funky side street. You wouldn't even know it was there if you didn't know where you were going, if you didn't find it, and walk there using the GPS, right? You wouldn't find it. This little hole in the wall, this little door, you walk in there. Is this the right place? Oh yeah, come on in. And that was a fantastic meal. And again, it wasn't fantastic because it was 89 courses and 800 pounds of food. It was these little carefully curated little tastings of this and this and that were just fantastic. And it was really interesting when they brought the check.
Mm-hmm.
They put it in this little music box and put it on your table. So when you open the lid, the music box plays like a little Baroque piece of music.
Did you catch the melody?
No, I don't remember. I just thought, well, that's cute. And
I wonder if it was Italian.
I don't remember. I just remember that it was an excellent experience. And
did you see that Amadeus is being remade in like an episodic format? They're doing like a series.
That sounds like it's gonna suck.
I will watch it. Amadeus is top 5 of mine.
Yeah.
All time. Alyssa. Yeah. By the way, Alyssa popped in. It made me think about the whole beer thing. Her brother was just in town, and I'm a big Belgian beer fan. I'm talking to him about it, and he says, why don't you want to go to Belgium? And like, we don't want to go to Belgium, dude. It's like you're saying, like, you want to go back, but geez, there are things to do.
Yeah.
But the way he posed it was hilarious. Like, I don't understand why you don't go to Belgium. Wait, what? Yeah, we have jobs. Exactly. Joe, if you're reading this, check out okay, I've never heard of Peeling Flesh. That's a name. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Very good to know. Thank you, Flo. And yes, we would go to Belgium tomorrow. So, are you ready to answer some questions?
Yeah, as long as they're about about
Wit beer?
Gothic architecture and
The Pesce pattern?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Well, this first has nothing to do with any of that. You're back in the salt mine, bud. Hi, Steve. Just got my own 1974 high watt PA. Oh, cool. And converted it like you did. Fantastic value direct from the UK. Curiously, what did you do in your addendum in that video for tweaking the input sensitivity?
Oh, yeah, there wasn't really any convenient way to address that with 2 input jacks, but I don't remember right off the top of my head. I have to look at my documentation, but basically I had to parallel the inputs gosh, I don't remember. I have to look at it. So you have the bright and the normal
Yeah.
inputs, and then there was only 2 input jacks. And keep in mind that the modification I did to it, I probably didn't do it as extensively as I would have under different circumstances. First of all, it was somebody else's amp. It was Dave's amp, and I didn't want to get too crazy. I just wanted to get it had a bad mod in it, and I wanted to get the bad mod out and get it operating like more like a normal DR103, and specifically my favorite iteration of the DR103. So that most of the focus was on that. The input sensitivity, if you look at the standard DR103 4 input schematic, you see how the 4 input jacks, the high and low bright jacks and the high and low normal jacks are configured. And I basically had to make that work so that you had a high and low, one high and one low input feeding the bright and normal input stages in parallel, and then you had a bright and normal volume to blend the bright or the normal, as opposed to having the bright jacks and the normal jacks feeding separate triode inputs. So that was a little bit of a compromise, and I had to kind of tweak that until it worked right. I don't remember, honestly, off the top of my head. I'd have to look at it, see what I did. And it wasn't made easy because of the way the chassis is laid out on the PA. And the other thing is, I would generally avoid doing an extensive modification on a PA 100 because they're so nicely made. I don't want to go in there and like rip them all up.
But that had the nasty mod thing happening.
Yeah, that already was kind of chewed up, so I didn't feel so bad about it. But I mean, I have we have that Sound City 100 PA head
We haven't talked about that
that
yet.
we haven't really talked about yet. We'll
right
talk
behind
about it.
my head.
We'll talk about it next time. And
Because we need to pull that, do the whole treatment with it.
Yeah, we're going to do a video on that at some point. It's going to take a while. So don't expect to hear too much about it right now, but it is pretty much stock. And it sounds pretty amazing just as a PA.
Now you opened it up, right?
I did.
Does it have any Reevesy kind of beautiful wiring in there?
It's like Reeves before Hiwatt officially got off the ground. So
Yeah.
it's got that it's that series of the 100 series, the very first Sound City amps, those are David Reeves' doing. The ones that came, the Sound Cities that came after that period, he wasn't involved in that, so that doesn't have his specific.
So what year do you
handiwork.
think this is?
That's 67.
So that's right in there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and 74 is a good year, and it probably has already the right circuitry in the phase inverter stage. Although you have to look carefully because you could find a schematic for that year amp, and it'll be a little different than what you have in the actual amp. So,
Oh, interesting.
and then it's also going to be slightly different depending on the fact that it's a PA.
Why did that happen?
Well, there wasn't anything really engraved in stone yet. I mean, you have to remember that
That's before I was born. I can't remember.
60. So Reeves is embarking on this path like in 66, 67, and starting to really make an impact by 68, 69, 70, and then by 79 he's gone.
Yeah.
So his place in the pantheon of pioneers is very short-lived, just like 10 years or less.
That's so bananas.
It's bananas, isn't
It's
it?
so-
It's like when you think about Hank Williams. you know, what did he 28 albums or some ridiculous amount of output and all the classic songs that he wrote in his short little time on earth. Hendrix, same thing.
Hendrix is always my example.
Yeah, so that early in a person's career like that is going to be a lot of experimental stuff, a lot of refinement, a lot of, oh, I see what guitar players want now, or I see how to better accomplish what I was trying to accomplish with this one and didn't quite. Like the first 10 years of life in a new venture like that, having been through that, is all about trying new things and sometimes second guessing the things that you already did and then going back and going, I'm not so sure that previous idea wasn't the better idea after all. And then you sort of go back to it. So you see this morphing and push back forth kind of thing where the front end starts doing a little this, and then the back end starts doing a little this to compensate, and then the back end goes back because that compensation ended up not being as musical as it was before. Somebody might point out, can you get me somewhere in the middle? And you'll see these things. And then also, there are 2 or 3 different people that were building them. So the people that are actually doing the building, the assembly, those guys are having an instruction. They have a sample, make it this way. And so the guy that was doing the assembly for High Watt, the main guy that,
I don't know.
yeah, you know his name. He's
What do you go on to do?
well, he's famous for his work in doing the really fine assembly work in High Watts. That was what he did.
That's him. Okay.
Yeah. The name will come to me when I'm not thinking about it.
He was the High Watt Massa.
And one of you guys will pop up with his name in a sec. But those guys were not engineers. They weren't designers. They were builders. They built what David Reeves told them to build from the samples that he provided them. So Harry Joyce, thank you.
Oh yeah.
Thanks, Steve, and thanks for the tequila that showed up on my desk when I got back from Italy. A pox on you. We're trying to cut down on the tequila. We're really trying really hard to cut down on the.
I don't know what you're talking about. I don't have any tequila.
Tequila.
I'm
So.
Are we having Steve's
Yep.
tequila?
Yep.
Thank you, Steve.
So thank you again for the El Tesoro. So those guys were doing as they were instructed to do.
Sure.
So Harry's building some, and there was another person or two that were doing some assembly and sub-assembly work, and Reeves was doing some of it. Naturally, the ones Reeves is doing himself are the ones where he's going to go, or he's going to be the one that Pete said, hey, you know what I need you to do? And then, or any artist that they work with, Paige or whoever, he's going to be the guy, he's going to be the Reinhold that they're going to go to and say, can you a little, and they're going to go, oh yeah, sure. And so you'll see variations. You'll see something going off the path a little bit. And then later on, that little diversion, some part of it will end up in production and will eventually get handed off to the other guys. And then you'll see this sort of convergence of ideas and progression of the design. And it'll go this direction until they've, and I've been through all this. You go through a projection till you get to a point where, all right, this level of refinement in this part of the company's career was fine for the period that those amplifiers was made, and now the whole musical landscape is shifting.
Right.
And now you're going to get people coming back and saying, I actually played I have I have a 92 pit bull, and I heard a 91, and there was something about it. I don't know what it is, but could I get more? And this is what happens. You put stuff out there, people latch onto a particular thing. I did the same thing when I had high watts. I found one of the 8 or 10 different amps that I cycled through.
That was the
I found one or two that were like, this is it. And that changed as the brand evolved. And then I went back to the 2 that I have now, which were the ones that I initially really glommed onto.
Yeah.
And so that's what happens. And that's also why different high watt enthusiasts will say, oh, Steve, you're totally wrong about that. It's the 78 that's the one that rules, or it's the 71 is the one that rules. And probably 9 times out of 10, the one that has the variation that somebody says is better than all the others is probably one that they only made 10 of. And they turned out to be not sort of universally workable for all the people that were more familiar with what
Or
the
it was
amplifier
restored
did.
to that previous circuit.
Or
and they didn't know.
something
Yeah.
like that, right?
Yeah.
There's all kinds of that stuff going on.
Yeah, like you
And,
did for Joe's.
Yeah, so as far as your PA, I'd be happy to review that if you want to send pictures of the guts to support, and I can have a look and say, yeah, maybe this, and I'll go back and look at my documentation on what I did with Dave's and advise you on that. So I'm happy to do that.
We don't even have the bell.
I have the bell.
Hit the bell, man.
Ring the bell.
All right. Okay, next question. Probably a pipe dream, but would you ever build a 200 watt plus amp for the additional headroom?
Um,
Let's go big. Let's go big.
I'm glad you asked that question because did you see the latest pedal show episode? They did a very cool thing. They took a bunch of different amps that have distinctly different personalities and set them all up clean and played them clean with guitars to see, basically to test this theory about the clean platform bugaboo, which is a big...
He doesn't like that very much.
The whole concept of clean platform is, to me...
If you want to wind him up immediately,
Yeah.
say clean pedal platform around him.
Yeah, or X pattern.
Or it takes pedals really well.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Well, you know what? They more than adequately addressed that entire narrative about the clean pedal platform. And it wasn't
You want another
until
drink?
yeah, absolutely. It wasn't until later on in the show where they started drawing the conclusion that I was hoping that they were going to come to, which is when you play the amp clean, it's never going to be a hi-fi transparent linear frequency response clean.
Right.
Nobody wants that.
That's if your amp does that, you're like,
Horrible.
I want to play drums instead.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
This sucks.
I would go back to drums.
Oh, in a heartbeat, man.
And so the way it landed was this. When the amp is set clean and you're playing through it, you're not setting it to be a hi-fi amp. You're setting it for a clean setting that when you're playing, it feels good and fun to play. It's inspiring to play. Setting it so that it has no personality. Well, most tube amplifiers, no matter how you set them, have a personality. And that personality is going to be expressed in all the ways that amp behaves.
It's like some
The
people
input
have a shit
stages,
personality. Some amps
yeah,
have a shit personality.
absolutely. The gain stages, the tone controls, the tone stack, the output stage of the way the output transformer is made, how much voltage is on the place, blah 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 blah. 6L6 EL34 is feedback, how no feedback, yada yada yada. They're still going to have a personality as a result of that, and you're not going to dial out that personality. But if you're going to use an amplifier more clean than dirty and get your overdrive from pedals, you're still going to end up pushing your amp into some kind of moderate to medium distortion territory at some point. And at the point that you start pushing the amp a little bit into its sweet spot, then the different amps that are all set up to sound more or less similar, they don't sound exactly the same, but they sound more in this clean territory, they're going to start really diverging as soon as you start pushing them. And that's where it becomes really apparent what the differences in their personalities is. But I mean, they did a really good job of pointing out that that dynamic and demonstrating that dynamic. And when I watched the end of it, I went, you guys totally exactly nailed it right on. I watched that and I went,
it gets the Stephen
that's
Fry
going to
seal
be
of
a
approval.
constructive, useful piece of information that everybody that uses the phrase clean pedal platform should watch 10 times and absorb every bit of it.
Lou made me laugh though. My PV Decade was not a good pedal platform.
Yeah.
Wasn't good at
Okay,
anything.
so why I brought that up with regard to Frost Crown question is, how much headroom do you really need? 200 watts? When you are using when you're using a 200 watt amp, you're absolutely going to need to attenuate it so that it becomes usable, because you're going to want to use that additional headroom. The only way you can use it is to play at ear bleeding volume or attenuate it to its sweet spot. So there is a distinct signature associated with amps in the 40 to 50 watt territory that get you there more easily, but they run out of gas a little too easily. So there's a limit to how useful they can be depending on what kind of environment you're playing in, how loud the members of your band, the drummer and the bass player, are playing, you know, how punchy band, what kind of music you're playing, how powerful your band sounds. There's going to be a point where 50 watts isn't going to quite cut it. So the next step is not going to be 75, because there aren't really any 75 watt amps. There are variations of 50s that you can get a little bit more power out of, and there are 100 watt amps that you can starve the plate voltage and get them down more into the 70 watt range, 70 to 80 watt range. But those companies that do that never call them 80 watt amps. They call them 100 watt amps, because they don't want you to think that it's not as powerful as another 100 watt amp, you know. So they don't want to argue with you. How come it's only 80 watts, but it's still got 4 tubes like my 100? They don't want to answer questions like that. They just want to take advantage of the marketing narrative. So they'll call it 100, but they'll starve it so that it's only 60, 70, 80. And you'll go, oh, well, this is a really juicy sounding amp because it's starved. All right. So that's a limited headroom, higher powered amp. And then, so when you transition to the 100 watt range, then you're at the range. Okay, we need to just delete this shit that's going on here. Can you just dump those non-comment comments? I don't even know what that is. But yeah, guys, you know, don't clutter up the chat with bass nonsense. When you get to the step where you're in the 100 watt territory, the idea is that you have enough headroom to get over the environment that you're in, where it's a bigger place or you're in a more powerful band. And that's the 100 watt territory. beyond that, the reason that everybody doesn't make 200 watt amps is because there's no real reason to that you need 200 watts. There isn't a big demand for it,
I have a question for you.
because there aren't people going, I don't know, this 100 watts is just not quite cutting it. I don't know anybody that says that. And having worked on having worked on the Chili Peppers Marshall Majors, I can tell you that even that band are struggling with the potential of those
Thank you.
those amplifiers,
You set
because
those. Are you done with that?
I'm going to be in a sec.
Okay.
Um,
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Those are wonderful.
See if they need to print them.
It's an experiment, of course. They're struggling with them because they have so much extra power that they can't realistically utilize on stage.
Yeah.
Same feeling,
Oh, it is.
but the previous one is a Grand Marnier. This time is
Great.
Oh.
So, so that's really what happens when you go to a 200 watt amp. Can we make one? Sure. It's, the 2150 is a 200 watt stereo power amp. And the whole time that we were producing that amp, people were just like, oh yeah, I'm killing this power amp. I'm driving it so hard. I need to retube it every 3 months because I'm just beating the shit out of the tubes. And I'm like going, don't flatter yourself. You're not even remotely touching the headroom of that amplifier yet. There's just no way. It's going to be really clean if you're just using it so that it doesn't get clipped. But if you push it to where the power supply is starting to sag a little bit, it's going to be brutal, and you're going to need to attenuate it. So there really isn't a lot of motivation to do that.
I have a question for you, though.
They do have a personality.
Okay, that's what I want to know about, because I've never played a 200 watt amp. We all know that there is a marked difference between 50s and 100s. You and I talk about all the time. I'm just wondering, is it kind of like the power band on an amp, like where there's diminishing returns after you get? Because I'm wondering, like, well, if 100 watts feels like wide open in this massive footprint, what does 200 watts do?
All of that plus additional pain, another 50% more pain.
But if you attenuate it, do you retain that? Like, have you ever done?
Oh
that?
yeah, well that's what we did. We gave
With the chilies, right?
We hooked them up with PS100s, so it would still have that PS100.
Jay-Z's in the chat. What's
Vibe.
up, man?
We hooked them up with the PS100s, and that worked for them because it gave them it gave the amp the punch that a 100 watt amp would have, and they could push the amp, and it was pretty clean the way he's using that amp. It's just right up to the threshold of the sweet spot, and at that point it's just painfully loud.
Yeah.
Like tooth rattling loud.
Yeah.
I get that I understand that some people have Marshall Majors that use that low volume. And I played a Marshall Major with a boost pedal at a low to medium volume, and I just found it really an unpleasant experience. It was just it really sounded pinched. It didn't have any chime. It just was all bark. And if you listen to early Ziggy Stardust shit, Mick Ronson's sound is all bark. That really honky mid-range.
Yeah.
That's the Marshall Major with a distortion pedal in front of it, and it's all bark. And he would have had to use a distortion pedal with that amp to make it manageable on stage, because if he tried to crank it to get the power power amp distortion
Just-
out of it, he would be wasting everybody on stage.
Right. And that's how you have, like, the worst marriage is a pedal on top of an amp that is throwing off no harmonic
Hmm.
information.
Hmm.
There's zero breakup. It's just, it sounds like oil and water to me.
Yeah.
It's like the super stiff, ultra clean amplifier with crap pedal on top of it.
Right.
Like, the nice pedal thing is when they start to mesh.
And there's you can get a pretty good sense of that characteristic happening watching that pedal show episode, because
Mhm.
they had a 50-watt plexi and a 100-watt plexi, and they switched between those two with pedals, distortion pedals and boost pedals and stuff. And yeah, that's true. Ronson had a major that was an early one with the really simple tone controls.
John would know too.
It was referred to as the pig.
John knows so much minutia. Like,
Yeah.
name a guitar player throughout history, and John knows their rig.
And that was an amp. That was an amp that was really poorly designed, and that was the one that gave the Marshall Major the reputation of blowing up, because as soon as you would get that in, as soon as you would drive the screen grids, the control grids on that amp, the screen grids on that amp hard enough to start drawing current, the tubes would just go off like bottle rockets. So the only way that you could tour with an amp like that was to never turn it up into this distortion range. And I was really actually a little concerned about the Peppers doing that using a power station, because you would definitely be demanding that the power tubes enter a little bit of this screen grid current. There'd be a current spike when you hit the screen grids hard enough. There would be this current spike where the power tubes could just they'd just blow. But that would only occur if he was running the amp up into at between 6 and 9 on the volume. So, but apparently they're not doing that, because now it's been probably 6 months since they got those, maybe a little more. I haven't heard a word from them. That means one of two things. They hated it and got rid of them, or they're using them and they're working.
Happily ever after. Yeah.
And usually if it was the former thing, that would probably have been, hey, we're using these and we're kind of hating it. Is there something that you can do with these to sort of get us in the middle ground? But there was word zero about it. That usually means that everything is working cool.
Are you ready for another one? We're already up at 2 hours.
Yeah, let's see. Well, yeah, I'd like to. I don't suppose anybody's really too interested in any more about the Guitar Summit, but we're making an issue out of the Guitar Summit because I think that is the future of trade shows, and I think stripping it back to the more community aspect of it is going to be the thing that should be happening in the US, and it's going to make it more interesting for everybody and less of just a grinding proposition. I'm sure that there's big companies that, like piano companies, that where they're moving big boxes, and that sort of mentality works for them. But I think that the guitar community benefits from having regional trade shows that are guitar centric. And I think that we get a better sense of the guitar community and what guitar players really want, use, and need than the dog and pony show that's a typical trade show. So I guess if there aren't any more questions about that, that's fine. We can bang out a couple more.
Yeah. All right. CT Hammer asks, question I've had about the pit bulls. What was the original inspiration or use case for the shift switch in the tone stack?
Yeah. Um, the original pit bulls were me trying to come up with an amp that worked for me. And whenever I got to the point where I had an option A and an option B, and both of them were viable options for me sonically, I would do this little cop out and put a switch in there, the switch between the two, because there would be a Tuesday where I liked it one way and a Wednesday where I liked it the other way. And I figured that if that was going to be my attitude about that, other players would have a similar reaction as well. So when I had guys come over and play through my prototype and I would switch it from one position to the other, you would see that there would somebody go, oh, you know, this was going pretty good, but when you push that button, yeah, it really sold it for me. Or, yeah, I was really into it. And then when you push that button, I don't know what you did, but you should unpush that. I don't need that. So it had a really distinct sort of a reaction. Players had a really distinct reaction to that switch. There were a couple of things like that. That actually played out through the the uh, um, the split off between what was the classic Pitbull and what was the Ultra Lead.
Yes.
It became very apparent that there was a player for this iteration and a specific player for that iteration. And then when the Ultra Lead came out and we did trade shows where we had both of them side by side in an A/B switch, there would invariably somebody would come in and they would listen to two and go, that one is great, that one is shit, and the next guy, that one is the shit, and that one, just don't even turn, you shouldn't even make that one, don't even bother with that, that's going to be a waste of your time. So there's always that. So the shift button and a couple of other things that are on there that are switchable were just an outgrowth of
I like them all.
I like them all. This is the mood I'm in today.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's cool. Oh, I remember this. Buddy, Tonecraft Effects. Asking about your LCR Instec model. Are you fully satisfied with its accuracy and features? And would you buy that same make and model again?
Oh, I don't even honestly think about that. I had one. It was serviceable but not great. It broke, and I did a little bit of just rudimentary research and bought a different one, and it works for the stuff that I need it to work for, and I haven't given it any thought past that. I use it. It comes in handy for very specific things, like verifying the inductance of a voice coil of a speaker, for example. I don't use it for capacitor checking that much. When a capacitor is bad, it's bad. If I'm trying to verify something like, for example, the companies that make clones of the original LCR style filter capacitors in
Yeah,
Marshalls, you know,
yeah.
the can types with
Right.
the 3 lugs on them.
Mhm.
There are companies that make legitimate multi-section cans that are accurate, that have reasonable tolerance, and that basically do what their documentation says that they will do. And then there's others that don't. So that comes in handy for, you know, weeding out the crap. But that's not what we use it for most of the time. We use it for verifying um, um, inductance. Most of the time we use it for verifying inductance and looking for reactive peaks
Hmm.
in the, we're always constantly going back to the reactive load and looking at its behavior and figuring out what can we do to broaden the appeal or make it a little bit more adjustable or tweakable. So having a tool that allows you to, first of all, we'll do a design proposal, and then we'll run a plot on it and see how it looks on paper, and then we'll play through it and listen to it, and then once we listen to it and compare it to something else, then we'll take those results and we'll go back and verify those results on the LCR meter to see where the inductance and the effective resistance is on that. And it's just another little piece of information. So yeah, don't get too precious about how it works. It seems to work great. It's been reliable. It gives accurate numbers, and those kind of machines are kind of a pain in the ass to work with anyway, because the way they measure is the way they do the measurement with a machine like that is what makes it accurate. It has these, these four lead connections in order to actually give you the result of the actual component you're testing, not the component blended in with whatever the behavior of the test leads that are connected to it. The whole idea of that piece of equipment is to eliminate the variables caused by the interconnect process.
That's nice.
So any decent machine does that. So we just picked one from a reliable manufacturer, a good quality brand, and just went with that. It works fine. Nobody thinks about it. So that's, I'm happy with it.
Cool. Okay.
You know what? It's easy to sort of program and switch back and forth between a couple of different parameter settings. That's what's nice about it.
All right. Is there anything remotely innovative or interesting on the horizon with analog amp designs? I'm waiting to see if graphene, is that a thing, will be useful somewhere. Korg new tube looked cool, but no one cares.
The new tube thing was very interesting at the time it came out, but it turned out to be not interesting. The problem was not the tech itself. They basically took kind of like a display and figured out how to make it behave like a triode. But they took a kind of a shortcut in the execution of it so that it was presented as a dual triode, but it wasn't actually a dual triode. It sort of mimicked a dual triode, but it only had a single cathode connection for both the triodes. So they weren't effectively two independent triodes. And the other thing is they were very high impedance, and they had a very low signal level threshold. So what they actually did was make something that would behave essentially like a 12AX7 style thing, but it wasn't the technology that they used to create it. That wasn't the thing that really mostly made it sound like a 12AX7. It was all the stuff that they did to it, conditioning the signal going into it and coming out of it, that made it actually seem like it was behaving like a 12AX7. So it had a lot of band-aids on it to make it work. And not only that, it was a funny form factor, not replaceable easily, unless you made some really cockamamie socket sort of arrangement where you could replace this thing that was sort of shaped like a little display. They were $25 a piece in quantity, and of course you couldn't roll them, and because they weren't actually a 12AX7 style circuit. I mean, their behavior was sort of triode emulation technology, not a 12AX7 replacement. So you couldn't compare it to a 12AX7 directly to determine how close it was to actually behaving like a 12AX7, unless you had a very sophisticated setup where you apply all these crutches to the new tube so that it would operate in the same voltage and signal parameters as a 12AX7. So you could say, oh yeah, they got it pretty close. The expense, the minimum order quantity, and just the whole process of it was ended up being a nice little marketing thing to get people excited, but is in the practical reality, it didn't fly. That's why no one cared about it. It couldn't really go anywhere with it. The other thing is it was very microphonic and not in a good way. The microphonic behavior of the little glass plate on the top was very high frequency, like about it would ring at about 10 kilohertz or something, a really annoying little frequency way up there. You'd hear this little tss all the time. So yeah, that was an interesting sort of experiment. And I got the whole development board, the development platform for it, and I got a bunch of them to experiment with. And as soon as we started experimenting with it, I started pinning their development team with questions and suggestions, blah, blah, blah. And the responses back were like, whoop, we made it like this, and that's the way we made it. Yeah, but if you did this and this and this, I mean, somebody could actually really use it in the variety of applications that we use those. Yeah, sorry. And so that was like, okay, however many hundreds of dollars we spent on the development platform and the time we spent evaluating it just all went down the drain. So yeah, that's why a manufacturer would go, oh, all right, I see. You did this one time and you made 20,000 of them and you're just trying to unload them because you have figured out yourself that it's not going to go anywhere. And so why should I buy in? What is innovative? What is coming along in analog amp designs? And my feeling and our design directive is aimed at the implementation around the existing legacy analog designs that make the whole package more efficient, more reliable, more useful, and more consumer controllable, that allows you to get more behavioral differences out of a single platform. Best way I can describe that is, I think it really goes all the way back to the original Pitbull concept, which was try to get this one particular amplifier expression platform, whatever you want to call it, to do as many things as it can practically do without asking it to behave the way an amp that size would not behave. Like a Pitbull is, you're not going to be able to tweak buttons and switches until it's an AC30. You're not. You're not going to be able to tweak an AC30 or an AC30 variant with a bunch of other things in it to act like a Pitbull. But there are defining characteristics of different kinds of topologies that you can massage to get you into these ranges where you can get them to the point where you can do enough with it before you actually have to switch to a different platform to get that kind of behavior. And that's where I think our innovation is going. And I think that's more of it is going to have to do with the practical realities of touring and hauling gear, shipping gear, and repairing stuff, and making it so that you don't have to repair it. You don't have to manage it so much. I think just making it a more practical proposition. The thing with modelers is they give you all these different places to go. They end up being ultimately only satisfying in a very narrow context.
Yeah.
But they give you a lot of tools to work with. And that's how I'm seeing our development going forward, which is making a single amplifier topology behave in as many idioms as possible, where it actually is effectively doing what the modeling amp wishes it could do, which is behaving like a real analog tube amplifier a lot of different ways without losing the thing that makes you want to play a real tube amp, which is the feedback, the give, the touch sensitivity, the inspiration, all things that make you want to play that thing, and then packaging it in a way that it's practical to ship and tour with, as a modeling rig is, and controllable, programmable, that kind of thing. That's where we're headed anyway. I don't know if anybody else is. I think some other companies are kind of dabbling in that, but I think that we're getting really aggressive about it. That's what I'm excited about right now. And John Z, you will be thrilled to see what the answer to your question is going to be in about 2 months.
Okay. We're getting towards the end. Seems counterintuitive that running an amp at 16 ohms requires it to work less hard, since it'll probably reduce headroom. Is it working less hard because it's dealing with less power?
Okay. Great question. And I well, why don't you just go home? Because nobody cares. You're just being annoying, and that's
this
not
guy.
fair.
So dumb.
Just go find yourself a new hobby, dude.
You got like 20 accounts. Cool, dude.
Yeah, just keep it up. And we got 20 people that couldn't give a rat's ass. Let's go back to the question.
Yeah, I know I have to find it.
Yes. The reason I like this question is because it goes back to, and somebody's going to comment about this as soon as I say this, because somebody commented about one of our posts or one of our shows previously. Oh, it was the Perfecto interview that I did, where we were talking about the Class D amps, and somebody posted, yeah, your whole narrative about Class D amps and how they behave is getting old because it's not even a fact what you're saying, and blah, blah, blah. Well, no, it is a fact what I have been saying about that narrative, and it's true. And the fact that it may not affect somebody playing at low volume doesn't change the fact that there are limitations to that design, and the ones that I described are legit real, and they do sort of negate the marketing narrative applied to that kind of amplifier. So now going back to Basil's question is, no, it doesn't work harder because the output transformer in a tube amplifier is matching the impedance of the power tubes to the impedance of the speaker cabinet. So if you have a 16 ohm impedance that's matching, that needs to be matched to the output tube impedance, which let's just say for an EL34 100 watt amp is going to be, let's just call it $1,800 plate, 1,800 ohms plate to plate, 1,800 ohms to 16 ohms, or 1,800 ohms to 8 ohms if you're using the 8 ohm tap, 1,800 ohms to 4 ohms if you're using the 4 ohm tap, if you're using a 4 ohm load, or if you're using the 8 ohm load, or if you're using the 6. That's the beauty of the output transformer, is it's keeping the tube operating point, the power transfer point, the same regardless of what load you're driving. So the difference between the final load that you're driving is the difference between the amount of current that is being drawn. So with a 16 ohm load, the voltage across the load will be higher, but the current will be lower. At a 4 ohm load, the current will be higher, but the voltage will be lower. So for example, an 8 ohm amp at 100 watts will be about 30 volts. A 16 ohm load at 100 watts will be about 40 volts. A 4 ohm load at 100 watts will be about 20 volts. So when the voltage goes down, the current goes up, vice versa. So that means that the amplifier is not working any more or less hard with a change in the load that's being driven. And that's because the transformer is doing that conversion part. In a solid state amp, you don't have the transformer. So in that context, absolutely, the 16 ohm load is drawing less current across the supply. And so when you're driving that amp, the power output will actually go down. So now in a solid state amp, an 8 ohm load will give you 100 watts. That'll be your 30 volts across the load to the speaker. However, that's pretty much, in a lot of solid state amps, the 4 ohm load is the optimum load. So the 4 ohm load is going to be more like 20, 25, but the transistors are going to be able to push more current into that load. So the actual current will go up. So that means that the power will be higher. So an 8 ohm setting on a solid state amp that has let's say 200 watts at 4 ohms is going to be about 120 at 8 ohms, and it'll be about 50 at 16 ohms. That's an environment where the output power will actually change with the impedance. And that's the downside of solid state amps, and Class D amps behave the same way in that respect. So that's the same drawback. There's no way to get around that except either design the solid state power amp to be 100 watts at 16 ohms, and then it's going to have to be like maybe a 3 or 400 watt amp at 4 ohms. That's going to make it more expensive. That's going to take more components. You know, it's just not going to be the same thing. So the headroom in an amp, in a tube amp, at the different impedances is going to stay about the same because you're compensating for the different impedances by using the taps on the transformer and the switch on the amplifier to switch those taps, because you're going to plug those into the specific loads that you want them to match to. That puts the whole matching process under your control, and that's how you maintain the headroom and the power output across the 3 different most common loads that you encounter plugging a power amp into a speaker load, okay? That's probably why it seems counterintuitive to you, because you might be mixing the concept of the way a solid state power amp works versus the way a tube power amp works, okay? That was a good question. I like that. I like being able to clarify what those differences are, because the average end user, they have no idea. They just look at the specs and go, well, the manufacturer says this is 200 watt amp, so I should have plenty of headroom. Yeah, only under the specific conditions that they tell you to operate it at. And most of the time, you don't have any control over those circumstances. So that means most of the time, you're not getting the benefit of the specs that they're using to promote the product to you. And yeah.
All right, let's see if we can do these final couple questions with the 2-minute drill. All right, you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. For a 2-tube amp setup, showing 1 PS100 for its attenuation and XLR output, is the Z-Max the safest, most effective bridge?
Okay. Yeah, you can read that 2 ways. For a 2-tube amp or a tube amp.
Yeah.
I read it as a 2-tube amp. So which 2 power tubes? 2 6L6s, 2 KT? No, I'm sorry.
You're
All
just joshing.
I know. 2-tube amp setup sharing a PS100. Yeah. the impedance matching aspect of the ZMAX is, it's less about safe to me. It's more about the accuracy of it. You know, the fact that it maintains the impedance in the range that will work most efficiently for the gear that you have plugged into it. A lot of people try to characterize impedance as these hard numbers. It's 4, it's 8, it's 16, and you can't plug a 8 into a 4 because smoke, and you can't plug a 8 into 16 because fire. You know, it's not like that. These are approximate numbers. They're basically telling you that we're in this approximate voltage and current range of operation, 4, 8, and 16. There is no exact 4 ohm speaker. There's only, that's a 4 ohm speaker is only 4 ohms at 1 watt at 1 kilohertz. An 8 ohm speaker is only 8 ohms at 1 kilohertz at 1 watt. These are reference beams to allow you to select the right speaker for your application in a very general sense, because that impedance varies over the entire frequency range from 20 hertz to 20 kilohertz.
Yeah, interesting.
It's only 4 ohms.
Yeah.
If you look at the whole speaker graph, when you look at speaker graphs online and you look at the frequency graph, the speaker is only 8 ohms at one point on that graph, at 1 watt. When you change the power, the frequency band is going to shift a little bit, and then that 4 ohm point is going to shift a little bit as well. So it's going to, that's overall the range of frequencies from 20 hertz to 20 kilohertz in guitar speakers are usually more like 50 to 5. Doesn't matter. 20 to 20 kilohertz or 50 to 5 kilohertz. The point is, across that whole range, the impedance is going to vary from, you know, the nominal stated impedance of, let's say, 8 ohms to 10, 20, 30, 40, depending on the frequency and the volume you're playing at. So that's the safety aspect that isn't really that critical. The purpose of the ZMAX is to put the amplifier that you want to plug, that you want to play through, into the impedance range that the speaker that you want to connect it to operates. And if they are in different respective range categories, like 4, 8, 16s are not hard numbers, they're range categories. They're troughs. They're not lines. They're troughs. The 4 ohm trough, the 8 ohm trough, the 16 ohm trough. So when you want an 8 ohm amp and a 16 ohm amp to plug into the same cab through the ZMAX, the impedance matching transformer inside the ZMAX allows you to keep the amps and the speaker cabinets in the same operating trough. And so what you're doing with the PS100 then is just attenuating whichever amp hits it. So yeah, that is the most effective way to deal with that. And the transformer in the ZMAX has some other advantages. So when you put an attenuator in its loop, it helps sort of smooth out the rough edges of the transition from the amp running wide open into the load, as opposed to the amp running wide open into the attenuator into the load. So yeah, safe is probably a little bit overstating the fact. They generally are safe, and that's why the other amp switcher companies say, oh, well, you know, it doesn't really need the transformer to be safe. You know, it's relatively safe. That is true. What they can't say, that is also equally true, is that running the amp outside of its normal intended range to the cab that you're running it into is going to result into a sonic shift that is definitely noticeable and sometimes can be an annoying difference. You're going to hear the mid-range act different. You're going to hear the low end resonance behave differently, and you're going to go, oh, it sounded a little bit more, it's got more of a bark now, or it's got more of a thump than I like. Those are the things that the Z-Max is designed to get rid of, those, to keep you in the same sort of sonic space, even though you're switching from different amps to different cabs. It keeps the sonic balance of the amp that you're trying to use and the cab you're trying to use in familiar territory, that so you have the outcome that you expect, not like, oh, I thought this was going to work fine, but God, I hear the mid-range is, well, what do I have to do about that? You need to match the impedance to get around that, so that the tube, you're basically faking the amp into behaving the way you're used to hearing it into a different load, because all this conversion process is being taken care of for you without you really having to think about it too much. Just push a couple of buttons and problem solved.
Two more. Two. All right. I recently bought a power transformer, but didn't quite survive the shipping. Oh, bummer. Inflicting bumps, dents on the corners of the laminated core. Will it hum badly?
Recently bought a power transformer. What kind of power transformer? Recently bought a power transformer. It didn't quite survive the shipping. Even if it did make a little tiny bit of buzz, when you're operating it, it won't hurt the operation of it. I mean, some people get really precious about, I can hear a couple of laminations beating together. I don't. I never.
You're not precious.
I never lost a minute of sleep over that whenever I encountered that.
Just turn it up a little bit louder.
Yeah.
That's like I always say, it's like once the drummer hits the snare, all bets are off anyway. Like you can't hear anything.
That is so right on. And if there's one downside to getting in the attenuator business, it's dealing with all the people that have never heard what their amplifier does when they can't hear what comes out of the speaker. It is such a riot. I mean, I grew up with this stuff, so I just you did that great video of my haunted amp. It was just so awesome, because people just like,
coming up.
I always wanted to know that. Like we really kind of finally allowed some people to get to sleep at night, because that unanswerable question finally got answered, and it was all because we made an attenuator product, and we're able to identify that as not being a problem. It's like can you anybody who has worn out the muffler on their car and had to drive it for 2 weeks without a muffler.
Yeah, that's fun.
And then when they finally get the muffler replaced, they're driving and they're like, oh, it's so quiet. Like, what is that ticking sound? Well, you've been driving with a bad muffler for 5 years, and it finally got illegally unbearable for the last 6 months that you were driving it, and then you put a new muffler on, and now it's as quiet as new, and you can hear the lifters tapping for the first time in 10 years. That's what's happening. And I'll bet you more mechanics make money off of, oh yeah, we need to change the overhead cam now. That'll only be $1,300. And like, oh God.
Oh, that's funny. So they're fine. Yeah. Okay. Last question. I have the PS100 and the effects loop of the Z-Max. What's the difference between using the Z-Max direct amp out versus the PS100 line out when going into the PLIR line in?
The difference is the signal that's coming out of the Z-Max line out is a padded down version of the actual speaker output of your amplifier.
Mm-hmm.
The line out is exactly the same execution. It's a padded down speaker output giving you a line level signal to go into the PLIR, but the difference is that's tapped off of the speaker out of the power station as opposed to the speaker out of the actual amp. Yeah. Yeah. So, but if you have the power load, then you can just connect the PLIR as a speaker cab as one of the speaker outs if you've got extra speaker outs available on the ZMAX. Then you don't have to use either line out. You can just take the power load and connect it to as one of the speakers,
Yeah, one of the
and then
speakers.
assign whichever amp you want to play through to the power load, and then it uses its own internal line conversion function, which is also the same as the line conversion function in the PS100 and the ZMAX. They all three work the same way. It's just it's all self-contained in the power load. Use it. Some people use it as a speaker. Some people use it as the way to get IRs out of the power station or the ZMAX. So I mean, you can use it any one of those three ways, and none of them are really better or worse than the other. They're just a matter of which way is convenient for you, how many jacks you have left to work with on the ZMAX, for example, inputs, outputs. It's just a matter of execution at that point. They're all good. And I've used them every single way, and they're all good.
They're all good. Well, now the time has come. The lights are flickering. The house is haunted. It's Halloween time.
It's fish and chips time.
Not for me.
Ah.
So we won't be here next week, of course. You have something. We don't normally do it back to back. You're out of town, but we'll be back in 2 weeks. Tonight we won't play the outro because I don't know how loud this level is, and I don't want to blast your speakers if you're not paying attention. So we're just gonna get the hell out of here. We'll see you in a couple weeks. You gonna play Kiss again?
Happy birthday to you. Okay, that'll be enough of that.
That was really good.
Thanks,
Really good.
everybody, for hanging out with us.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Good to see you all again. And see you soon.
See you soon.